at the flow of urea through the nephron. This is our nephron. Okay, so the renal artery supplies the kidney with blood, and it goes into the afferent arteriole, which is right here. I'm going to use red. This is the afferent arteriole. And this basically turns into the glomeralis, which is a network of capillaries. And this is the glomeralis. Okay, and then from here, everything that's being carried in the blood, like amino acids, H2O, waste products, and glucose, diffuse out into Bowman's capsule to become filtrate. Now, when all these things leave the glomeralis, they go into the efferent arteriole, which is this, and they basically start branching off into the peritubular capillaries. Which basically surround all of the nephron everywhere over here and even into the collecting duct. And they're used for the reabsorption of important ions or glucose and water that the body still needs to retain. So here in Bowman's capsule, our filtrate travels down the proximal convoluted tubes, which is PCT. And here, glucose gets reabsorbed into the body, and so does some H2O. There's still plenty of H2O traveling throughout the system. And then our filtrate makes its way down to the descending loop of Henle. This is descending loop of Henle. And this step is really important because here is where we have the diffusion of H2O. Not all of the H2O leaves the nephron. Some of it still continues on into the collecting duct to become mixed in with the urine. H2O. And right here, while we're crossing into the ascending loop of Henle, ascending loop of Henle, this is where the filtrate diffuses, its ions diffuse into the medulla. So here we have different ions, like sodium, potassium.
Go.
It's important to remember potassium is not diffused out. It's sodium and chloride. And then as we continue on with our filtrate, one thing to keep in mind is that from here, the loop of Henle dips into the medulla. Everything below this point is in the medulla. And the reason why the medulla is considered hypertonic is because of the diffusion of all these ions. Now, urea is still inside of the filtrate at this point. And we continue up to and we're traveling up into the distal convoluted tubes. And it's important to keep in mind that some urea is reabsorbed in the distal convoluted tubes, and this is for the purpose of setting up the osmotic gradient in the medulla. And most of this occurs inside the collecting duct for the osmotic pressure or gradient. So then we continue on, and our filtrate is dumped into the collecting tubes where it becomes urine. The collecting duct. And at this point, once again, as I previously stated, some urea is needed to set up the osmotic gradient in the medulla, and some of urea is reabsorbed in the body. And it's important to remember that the urea is reabsorbed into the blood vessels created by the capillaries that go all around the nephron. Now, in small amounts, urea is actually good for the body, which is why we reabsorb it. And now at this point, while we're inside the collecting duct, the filtrate is urine. It's considered urine now, and it's on its way to travel outside of the body from the ureter to the bladder from the bladder to the urethra, which goes outside of the body. And there we have it.